Hey, welcome. So you're thinking about buying a home. The excitement is absolutely electric, right? But then you meet that first big hurdle, a giant stack of paper called the real estate contract. It can look pretty intimidating, but that's exactly what we're going to tackle today. We're going to pull it apart and make it make sense.
I want you to think of this contract not as some scary legal monster, but as your own personal treasure map. Seriously, it's the guide that lays out every single step of this incredible adventure you're on, making sure both you and the seller are on the exact same page.
All right, so what's our game plan? First, we'll get to know our map, the contract itself. Then we'll figure out what the treasure is, what property you're actually buying. After that, we'll talk about the price of the prize, explore your financing options, and wrap up by learning how to spot the really important stuff in the fine print, specifically leases.
Okay, let's dive right in. The first thing you've got to know is that this contract isn't designed to trick you. It's not the villain. Its whole job is to be a super clear, legally binding guide that protects both you, the buyer, and the seller from any confusion down the road.
Every map has to start with the people on the journey, right? The contract calls them the parties. That's the buyer and the seller. And look, I know this sounds super basic, but it's absolutely crucial. The names here have to be your full legal names because they have to match exactly what's going to be on all those official closing documents.
So, now that we know who is in the deal, let's get to the fun part. This next section answers the biggest question of all. What am I actually getting for all this money? What's the treasure?
The contract has a special word for this. It calls it the property. And this is so important. It's not just the house. You got to think of the property as a package deal, a bundle of 3 different things that all come together. So here's how that bundle breaks down. First up, you've got the land itself, the actual plot. Then you have the improvements. That's all the stuff that's permanently attached, like the house, the garage, a ceiling fan, or that cool built-in bookshelf. And finally, you get the accessories. These are things that aren't bolted down but are usually included, like curtains, the stove, or even the keys to the mailbox.
But hey, what's included is only half the story. Just as important is what's not included. This part of the contract is for exclusions. So if the seller wants to take that gorgeous chandelier from the dining room with them, they have to write it down right here. This way, there are no nasty surprises on moving day.
All right, let's talk about the money. We're getting to the financial heart of the deal here. This is where the contract breaks down exactly how that big final number, the sales price, is calculated.
And you know what? The contract actually makes this super simple. It's a basic formula. The cash you're putting down plus the total amount of money you're borrowing equals the final sales price. That's it.
Let's put some real numbers on that to make it crystal clear. Let's say your down payment, your cash, is $50,000, and you're getting a loan for $450,000. The contract just adds them up for your total sales price, $500,000. See? Simple.
Okay, so you know how much you need to borrow. But how are you going to get that money? The contract actually outlines 3 main ways to do this, and each one has its own special form, called an addendum, that gets attached to the main contract.
Now, the most common path, by far, is third-party financing. That's just a fancy way of saying you're getting a loan from a bank or a mortgage company. But there are other options too, like assuming the seller's loan or even getting the seller to finance the house for you.
Let's dig into that second one for a second, loan assumption. This is a really interesting one. It's where, instead of you getting a brand new loan, you literally take over the seller's existing mortgage and just keep making their payments. It's not common, but wow, it can be a powerful move.
Of course, with something like this, you gotta weigh the pros and cons. The biggest benefit? You might get to lock in the seller's awesome low interest rate from a few years ago. That's a huge win. But on the flip side, the seller might still be on the hook if you stop paying, and the process can be really slow. We're talking 75 to 90 days.
All right, we're on the home stretch, and this last section is a big one. It's the kind of fine print that can really catch you by surprise if you're not looking for it. The seller has to tell you if any part of the property is currently being leased out to someone or something else.
The contract breaks this down into 3 types. First, you've got residential leases. That one's pretty obvious. It means there are tenants living there. But then you have fixture leases for things that are attached to the house. And you even have natural resource leases in case someone else has the rights to the oil or gas under your land.
And that quote right there points to probably the biggest surprise for homebuyers today: solar panels. A lot of people don't actually own their solar panels. They lease them. And when you buy the house, guess what? That lease and those monthly payments could suddenly become your problem. The contract makes sure you know about this stuff up front.
So, when you boil it all down,
What's the big takeaway? The contract isn't the enemy. It's a tool, one that's been carefully designed over years. Its entire purpose is to make everything totally clear and to protect both you and the seller every step of the way.
It defines the treasure, it counts the price, and it charts the course. It is your map. So the only real question left is, now that you know how to read it, are you ready to start the journey?